All right, welcome in as we continue to push to the big game on Sunday. We've got plenty else going on around the sports landscape here, including a golf tournament just underway right now. We'll have an update there for you and a couple of more props to take a look at with our main man, Andy Lang. Not to mention the NHL has a loaded slate here tonight. And maybe, I believe, our very first lacrosse play of the year here on WagerTalk Today. So plenty coming up there. Rob Veno a little bit later talking some NBA. Pretty good one with Dallas and Boston here tonight. Of course, we'll continue to talk some Super Bowl props. Gianni the Greek, VR, will be here a little bit later, of course, with his usual Steam report. And if you guys might have guessed it, I sure as hell am not the Prez. But from what I understand, he may very well be on his way back at some particular point, but that won't happen until next week. So until further notice, it is a Prez-free zone. A very happy Thursday to you. And one of the other huge events coming up this week, and outside of that, whatever that thing is in New Orleans they're putting together, we got to head to Australia because the UFC is heading to Australia, I believe, for the first time this year. And we got not one, but two championship fights. And come on, let's be realistic. Who better to break down some UFC fights than our main man, Kyle Anthony, in the house, ready to roll here? Are you going down under, Kyle, as a matter of fact, there to witness this? The timing's a little bit different. Like, how's it all working here on Saturday in Australia?
Yeah, they don't, they're not changing any time or anything. Last weekend, they had it was, the time frame was early, cards started early, all those things. But this is actually going to be, normal. Although for the people in Australia, I don't think they're going to be as happy. It starts at 8 p.m. here, 10 o'clock, the main card. So it's definitely a little bit different for them. But for us, we don't feel it over here. We don't feel it.
No, well, Australia, it should be, it's going to be exciting. It's also not one, but of course, two title fights here. So let's kick off with the one that everyone is going to buy this for, and that's Duplessis and Strickland 2. Hell of a go-around, the first go-around here. Anything changed to you in your mind in this second fight? What are we looking for?
Yeah, so in this fight here, you've got Dricus du Plessis. He is going to be minus 210 as the current champion. Oof. On the other side here, you've got Sean Strickland. He's plus 170. And to your point, Joe, this is a fight where the last fight, very close, split decision. It did go to Dricus on that spot, but you look at the strikes landed. It was 173 to 137 in favor of Strickland. And the interesting part about it, and the reason why I do believe that DDP got the nod, was first being the fact that he has the more impactful shots. He's definitely by far the harder hitter. He's a guy that's going to be landing the damage between the two of these guys. And the other part was the takedown. Really well-timed takedowns from DDP, and he was able to get some control time. And you look at really what Strickland does, and he pretty much does the same thing almost every fight. He's going to come forward. He's going to walk you down. He's going to throw a simple 1-2 combination. He's going to look to utilize the jab, teep kicks to the body, not look to wrestle, not look to commit to his punches, and really kind of go in there and look for a barn burner. And that's really the difference between, I think, him and DDP, where DDP is a guy who is going to fight smart. He's going to mix it up. And again, he's going to be the harder hitter. He's going to be the guy that's going to be looking to pile up the damage. He definitely is going to look for those takedowns. And that's something that he did so well in the last one, where if the round was close, there was a close, maybe it was a pitter-patter shots back and forth. You couldn't really tell. By near the end of the round, Dricus would look for takedowns and get that takedown, end up on top position by the end of the round. Optically, it looks very good for the judges. That's another reason why he was getting the nod. He had 6 takedowns in that fight. He averages 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. So this being a 5-rounder, you're going to be getting those takedowns from DDP. And then the other part here is going to be the unorthodox style. That is something that, I have been betting DDP on his rise up consistently on client plays. And this is a guy that it's just awkward movement, awkward, herky-jerky kind of style, throws punches, very weird angles. And this is a spot where I actually do believe it's going to play out very similar to their last fight, where I do think it's going to be some competitive rounds. I do think that you're going to have Strickland kind of weaponizing that cardio. But in general, he's not a guy that's easy to put away. Strickland has only been finished twice in his professional career. One of them was by Alex Pereira. I don't think that Dricus is going to get the finish. I think that he will get the nod on the scorecard. So you're looking at 5 points, is sitting around plus 160, 165. And I do think it's a very likely path for him to keep the title.
It's funny. It feels like every time. I mean, Strickland just feels like a decision monster because he's not going to grapple anybody. He's not going to, he's not going to go there and submit anybody. I don't know are you a believer in his power? Has he got knockout power? It just feels like it's a guy that's going to beat the living crap out of you for the entire fight and look for the judges to give him the fight. I mean, that's what he did with Costo, isn't it?
Yeah, and even with that, I mean, he's just very defensively sound. I mean, he's very good with the Philly shell. He really kind of, and that's the thing that it does, to your point, it does allow him to kind of get to the scorecards. And all he's trying to do is really weaponize that cardio, push the pace. And even with the Paulo Costa fight, that was like a glorified sparring match. I mean, these guys stood at range, pitter-patter shots back and forth. Nobody really went for it. And that's, I think, the difference here, where you're going to see Dricus look to push forward. He's going to be controlling the center of the cage. A lot of times, guys, with Strickland, they're looking, he's the guy that's really doing the walking down. And here it's going to be Dricus, who is not looking to take many back steps. And I think, again, optically to the judges, he can look to get the job done on the scorecards.
If I read, is Pereira in the corner? Is that how that's working now? Did he partner up with him? Really?
Yeah. So he will be in the corner here. There already a little bit talks about that. I mean, I can't put too much stake into that. Obviously, if you're training with Alex Pereira, it's a huge deal, obviously. But I just think that, the striking is one thing, but it's not like Pereira is a guy that's a grappler that's going to be working on some of the ground game of DDP. But yes, he will be in the corner. That'll add a little bit more to this fight. Absolutely.
All right, love it. All right, should be. I think it's well worth the price of admission just for that fight alone. But there are some other fights here that you're going to take a look at for us, and as well you should, since you are the #1 MMA expert over the last year, up 84 units. Man, you've been absolutely crushing it. So take us down the card here a little bit. Give us another fight that you think on the undercard is worth a look.
Yeah, so the other one here we're going to look at is Vyacheslav Borishev. He is minus 150. On the comeback here, you've got Tom Nolan plus 118. Now, there's definitely no doubt that Borishev is going to have the better technical striker. He is the striking coach for Team Alpha Male. He's got good, arsenal of kicks, definitely fast developing combinations. But the big issue for me here is the fact that, it just seems like he's starting to decline. He's 33 years old now. He has taken a ton of damage over the last 3 fights. And really the big red flags on Borishev is going to be the durability concern. Now, it's not like Tom Nolan is, the poster child for a granite chin, but I do think that at this point, we're not seeing Borishev really absorbing shots very well. The chin is very iffy. And the biggest red flag that you can look at as a chin is if Chase Hooper, who does not have striking, is just a pure grappler, no power, was able to drop you, and he was able to drop Borishev in their fight before he mauled him. I think that's a huge red flag. And then also the cardio now. Borishev is a guy that is going to throw a lot of high-powered stuff, but this is the point now, and even most recently against James Yontop, who is really a very green, brawling type of fighter. And by the time that fight got to the 3rd round, it was really Yontop moving forward, throwing the bigger shots. It looked like Borishev was really starting to wilt, and I just don't think that's a good sign here where you're about to face Tom Nolan, who does bring a lot of power. And also, I do think the clear vulnerability here on the Borishev side, he has absolutely terrible takedown defense. This is a guy out of his last 8 fights has been taken down 29 times. Now, Nolan does not have any takedowns in the UFC, but he's 24 years old. There is no doubt this guy has to start adding tools to his arsenal. He has to start rounding out his skill set. I do believe he's going to be doing that. Now you back that up with he's going to have the bigger frame. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 8 years younger than Borishev. And I just think you're going to see massive improvements here. So I think there's a lot pointing you at the underdog here and that plus money. So I do like Tom Nolan to get the job done at that plus 118 number.
Correct me if I'm right here, Kyle, and Nolan at plus money is always, that's music to our ears here. But anytime we get the UFC that goes abroad, right, and goes to these different countries, they usually stack the card on these undercards with a bunch of local fighters, right? That they give pretty easy fights to, right? So, I mean, when you look at the card there, I would imagine they're doing the same here. There's got to be a bunch of local guys that might be worth a look that are probably taking on, let's face it, some gas cans here, no?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do that. They're definitely, that's part of absolutely the capping a little bit here. You're trying to get a little bit of like a lean on, are they going to be trying to give the hometown crowd more to cheer about? I mean, even in this spot here, Tom Nolan is a guy that's from there. This is on home soil. That also does help him there. But, it's definitely a concern if you're going the other side. I mean, obviously, if you're, Saudi Arabia or these outside, maybe there's a little bit more to it. You're a little bit more worried about it. But, in general, it's hard to really kind of quantify some of those things because there's been a lot of shit decisions in the Apex in Vegas. So it's very kind of hard to do that at some point. But I do agree with you that there is spots where they're trying to get some of these guys, a little bit of, and even the travel. That's something that I look at too, that where is this guy coming from? When is he leaving to go into a different spot, different part of the world? Is he going to be acclimated, whether it's altitude, whether it's the travel, when are they fighting? To your point, we were talking about that earlier, all of those things start to matter, or the guy that, maybe he has an hour drive, to the arena. So it definitely starts to add to it. So, I mean, part of this too, even with the Tom Nolan part, there's definitely the fact that he's fighting on home soil.
Yeah, and he's not the only hometown guy that's plus money. So it's worth maybe a look-see as you guys attack this card here. But no doubt, if there's an edge to be had, Kyle has got you covered on his page at WagerTalk. Are you all fights locked and loaded? You still holding out? What do you got at your page now at WagerTalk?
Yeah, so right now I've got 4 plays in there. Got some plus money, of course, in there for clients, and have a 5% bet. We're 14-3 on those 5% plays, having a nice run there, and picked up 7 units last weekend. And I always say this, this is a pay-per-view card. People love those cards, but that was an early card last week. We woke up, we picked up 7 units, and we enjoyed the rest of our Saturday. So that's where you got to it's about the month. It's about each and every month finding opportunities, not just looking for these pay-per-views to place money on. So we do have a nice card for this weekend. I'm probably going to have 5 or 6 plays by the time Saturday does come, but I'm feeling good about it. So check it out at WagerTalk.com.
Oh, I love it there. Great job, Kyle. As always, my man, you can visit him over at WagerTalk.com. Hop on board. It's going to be a hell of a weekend here across the sports betting landscape, and you got to love some great UFC title fights heading into the ultimate game on Sunday. So big shout out to those guys in the chat room hanging with us here today. Javier Cash in there, Titan CT, Andrew Peasy back in the house. Natural 8, pleasure to see you as well. And of course, Big Daddy rounding it out here. Don't forget to hit that like button or subscribe button if you haven't done so already, guys. We certainly appreciate you hanging with us here as we are also getting ready for some other sports that are taking center stage this week before Sunday. Golf is on our minds, and I know because we talked to him yesterday, Mr. Andy Lang in the house, definitely on his mind as well. And I believe, Andy, they are fully off and running. Beer, drinks, scotch, vodka, bourbon. Most people that I've seen so far are already half in the bag at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, but not so many of the golfers here. I believe that damn Sepp Strack is like a bad rash. You can't get rid of him. He's always up at the top of the leaderboard for some reason. But your thoughts on what you've seen thus far, and give us it looks like you still got a prop coming up here today for us.
Yeah, we actually have a bet on Straka, so happy to see him doing well. Yeah, he's off to a great start. Yeah, I like these tournaments because I can come on the show and give out a play for the afternoon tee times after I've watched the morning. The course is playing pretty easy There is no wind whatsoever. I thought the greens were going to be really firm, but they're pretty receptive at this point. And Justin Thomas had a great quote after one of the majors last year where the winner shot like -20, which is never supposed to happen. Justin Thomas said, if there's no wind and the greens are receptive, we're going to tear it up. And so when you're looking at that, you're looking at playing some plays that are going well. And so, yeah, Sepp Straka's already well on pace to go under his round score. So let's take an afternoon guy, under 69.5 for Siwoo Kim. This is only 2 under. This is only a par 71 course. So you just need to get to 2 under. And Joe, he just really likes playing here. He's finished 12th, 23rd, and 26th the last 3 years here. And just go look at his scores from last year. He shot 68, 68, 69, 67. So all 4 rounds last year, he went under the 69.5 total. So I like the way the course is playing. There's no wind. Temperature is perfect. You're getting good roll on the fairway. There was some concern that the rough was going to be really, really tall, long, thick, but the guys have not had problems getting out of it. So I like these afternoon guys to shoot pretty low today.
Yep, love that. 3:06 p.m. Eastern time, scheduled T. So you got plenty of time to hop on board with that with Siwoo Kim here today at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. All right, Andy, we also have some NHL loaded slate here tonight. Love this play of yours. What a shocker that's going to be. But shots on goal prop, always a popular one here in the NHL. Which game, team, and person are you looking at?
Can you use your catchphrase for this one, Joe? Because this is just right. Just right. Say it for me.
If it ain't broke, people, we ain't fixing it. And I am backing you on this one, Andy.
Yeah, Sam Bennett, over 2.5 shots on goal. He's gone over in 10 straight games, 16 out of last 20. There was concern for Sam Bennett because he was clearly not 100%, and we were rolling with him to not have points. He looks like he's healthy now, and he's really involved in the offense. And, Joe, he is a puck-firing machine. The last 20 games, 7 shot attempts on goal and 4.1 shots on goal. You're getting reasonable juice on this one. This is absolutely a client play. We've been playing this one for a while, so you just keep riding Sam Bennett over 2.5 shots on goal. I know it's good. I know the streak is not going to last forever, but you just keep playing it, and then when he finally goes under, you go right back to it. There's the Florida Panthers team that shoots the puck a lot, and Sam Bennett is one of their top shots on goal guys. So, yeah, just ride Bennett over 2.5 shots on goal.
If it ain't broke, don't fix. We got a new song coming, by the way, with that, guys. Look forward to unveiling that for you. Andy, also, we should let folks know, great opportunity to hop on board with you. We will have, of course, one more prop that you're going to throw out to the folks in yet another sport that people should not be sleeping on as it is getting ready to turn the calendar year and the page and begin another season. But tell us about the 7-day promo that you have right now that folks can hop on board and get all of these sports and these prop bets.
I mean, this morning started off the busiest 4-day stretch. Live Golf started, PGA Tour started, darts starts here in a couple of hours. We have 5 darts plays. I did not think we would have that many darts plays up. Those are up. The darts plays are all available on DraftKings. So if you have DraftKings, make sure you get that. But we're running 7 days, discounted down to $69. It's a 30% discount. 48 and 17 after last night's cash, Joe. We're up 42 units in the last 3 weeks. We are absolutely humming. We are number 1 the last 2 years. And this is such a great stretch of sports that are off of everyone's radar that we're going to cash in. We've got darts. We've got your player props in NHL and NBA. We've got lacrosse, which we're going to talk about in a bit. We've got the Super Bowl props as well, 5% UFC, all of that just in the matter of like 4 or 5 days. So instead of focusing on one sport, grab a 7-day. Let's profit in all of these sports. This is one of the busiest weekends that we're going to have of the entire calendar year. So don't miss out. We're running hot long-term. We're running hot short-term. No reason to not get it. And the people that got the 7-day earlier this week, listen, we're 5-1 this week. So we're already off and running. So don't miss out on any more profits. WT.buzz/AL 7-day pass.
If it ain't broke, don't. All right, Andy, it ain't broke, brother. We ain't fixing it. But We got Lacrosse too kicking off, and of course, from what I understand, more and more books picking it up, carrying the action for Lacrosse. And you no doubt have a play that you've got posted for us. So tell us about it. What's going on?
Yeah, it's college lacrosse season, and we brought in 30 units last year in lacrosse. This is such a hidden market. The lines are soft. The books they're asleep at the wheel with some of these, and this is just a perfect example. So Marquette is playing at home to Detroit Mercy. Marquette scored 1 goal last week, Joe. Only one.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we take the over in a Marquette game when they only scored 1 goal? Well, they're playing a way weak opponent in Detroit Mercy. And here's the key. This is amazing. Marquette, in winter months, their field is outdoors, but in the winter months, they put this big white inflatable dome over their field, and it's white. That's the same color as the ball. The goalies it's almost impossible to see the ball come flying in. These two teams played last year. The final score was 22-8. They scored 30 goals, and we're getting 23 and a half as the total. And this is just one of those things that the books don't take into account. They're looking at averages and, how many goals do we think? And they don't take into account this complete X factor of this big white inflatable dome that's over Marquette's field that makes the sight lines almost impossible for goalies to see. So expect a lot of goals, expect a lot of shots. And if you're Marquette, boy, you want to pour the gas on this fire. If you get up, you're going to keep scoring. After a 1-goal performance, I look for them to play really well and to get up and over this 23.5 total.
Yeah, listen, there are some opportunities and edges to be had in those sports, especially with the books going, we'll throw a number up there. It's usually not a great number, and that's when you guys can hop on board. I know the question in the chat from Justin was, where can you actually watch these games? And I believe ESPN Plus is always the go-to there, that you can probably hop on and check the college lacrosse games out. Listen, if you can bet on it, I promise you can watch it somewhere, no?
Okay, so yeah, lacrosse, most of them are going to be on ESPN Plus. Some of the bigger games will be on TV, like some of the ESPN News or some of those. Darts, DAZN carries this. But also, if you have FanDuel or Bet365, you can go to the live lines when the match starts, and they have them. Yeah, so FanDuel played all the matches last week. I don't know if they're doing this tournament, but Bet365, the live, you click on the live lines and bang, there it is in real time. So that's how you can actually watch these.
Yeah, awesome. I know there was a question, Scott C. Andy, about darts channels, how to watch that same situation. If the book carries it, that's the best way to go, or is ESPN Plus to go to?
ESPN Plus doesn't carry darts. I'll send a strong email to ESPN and ask why they're not carrying these darts. I will take care of this for everybody. DAZN is going to be the big one that carries it, and then some of your sports books on the live lines.
Gotta love it, guys. We got listings for you. We got bets for you. We got a little bit of everything, and that is what Andy Lang brings to the table. Make sure you guys head over, take advantage of that 7-day discount right now, $69 on his page at WagerTalk.com. Thanks, Andy. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Shout out to those of you guys joining us once again in the chat room. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Hit that thumbs up if you could. A like would be much appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And a shout out, by the way, to Jeff Parker, Pints, Putts, and Parlays, by the way, in the house on TikTok. Always a pleasure seeing you guys. Also, Matt Bro 6 over on Instagram. Make sure you hit the follow button, guys, if you haven't done that already, as we still have plenty of sports and picks to get to, including Gianni the Greek. VR will be here in just a few. He'll give you that daily Steam report, let you know where the pros and where the groups are looking on the board today. But we still got NBA action. We got college basketball. We also have this game coming up on Sunday. So who better to run some of these games by than our good friend Rob Veno in the house, RV ready to roll on what should be a great day on the hardwood. Veno, now that the 48th, or basically the trade deadline, is come and gone, and all these desperate teams trying to throw shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's ironic that Oklahoma City, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics, none of the favorites went overboard looking to try to make all sorts of changes. But now that everything is kind of settled here, pretty interesting game tonight with the Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks here. Celtics not great on the road, Rob. Although they've won, everything has been by sweat job city with them. Are we back to laying double digits at home with Boston, even against Dallas tonight?
Well, I think we have to be, Joe. The Dallas situation is just right now, until Saturday, it's going to be pretty much a mess, right? That's when I think Anthony Davis is going to make his debut. Now, there's a shot that he plays tonight, but just not sure that they would put him out there tonight against Boston. He's gone through workouts the last couple of days. Certainly, he thinks he's feeling better, but it seems like Saturday's the more likely time for him. It's the fifth game of a 5-game road trip for Dallas. Certainly, shorthanded fatigue has to set in at this point. They haven't played defense at all in the last couple of games. Not sure they'll start playing good defense here against this particular team. Boston, where the rest advantage is concerned, in real good shape. Second of back-to-back home games, and they had yesterday off. So clear advantage schedule-wise to the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go back just a couple of games ago, Joe, and look at what Jason Tatum said after they came back against the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they scored 54 in the final 74 in that game. He talked about competitive joy, how great it feels to all be on the same page again. And you take that with a grain of salt and say, okay, let's see what you do against Cleveland. And sure enough, 112-105. Not many teams hold Cleveland to 105. Boston did it. They took it. They took what Tatum said and carried it through. And I think this is going to run right through the All-Star game. There's about 4 games left for Boston. And I'll just take a quick quote from Kristaps Porzingis, who said it's important for us to finish strong going into the All-Star break. Get some rest, then have the really good home stretch of the regular season at the right moment. For Dallas, same problem, especially if AD doesn't go. There's no rim protection. 76ers had 64 points in the paint the other night. Dallas giving up 125 a game over their last 5, 28th in defensive efficiency. Just not good. I'm going to say this. Boston hasn't been good at home this year, and I'm a little bit leery to lay that many points. I wouldn't argue anybody off of doing it. It's a difficult matchup for Kyrie Irving. Remember, this is the best perimeter defense in the league. Kyrie's got to go up against it. He's the only scorer. But I think Boston comes out of the gates quick here. As I mentioned, Dallas is in the 5th of 5 road games. First half line, you can find 5.5s all over the place. I would lay 5.5 in the first half with Boston, thinking that they get the job done. This newfound mindset of playing hard, I think I'll stick with it, and we'll roll with Boston first half.
Like in the first half. Don't hate the over either. Big Daddy in the chat room looking at that one. Opened up 228. We're starting to see 230s now popping, and it makes total sense in that aspect of it. All right, another interesting game is finally Miami got rid of that pain in the ass Jimmy Butler. And now he's Golden State's problem. Now Golden State has a interesting game coming up here tonight, taking on the Lakers, who, once again, Luka will be there in the building at home there for the Lakers. And boy, oh boy, that place is going to be wild. Golden State played last night, lost in Utah, now back to L.A. What gives here? What are we looking at, Veno?
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Golden State. We just talked about 5th and 5 nights being tough for Dallas. This is even tougher, I think, for Golden State here, just because of the shyness of depth. Steve Kerr talks about yesterday's trade like this. He said, this is hard. This is the business. We know that. We talk about it periodically. Everyone moves on. You say your goodbyes. Brandon Podziemski even talked about there being tears in the locker room after the trade was announced for Jimmy Butler yesterday. And he went on to say, we're down a lot of people right now. Somebody else has to step up. That's what I'm here to do. He had 29 in Salt Lake last night. Not only is it back-to-back travel, Joe, but it's just that. It's travel from altitude in a game where it was, nip and tuck the entire way through the fourth quarter. They're not extensive minutes, but they were, tough minutes when you're trying to win a ball game. Golden State didn't do that. The Lakers, they're depth shy too. Let's face it. I mean, the trade that they pulled off for Mark Williams last night leaves them with probably about 7 players in this game. If Gabe Vincent can't go, it leaves them with 7. But at least the Lakers starting lineup has been played together the last few games, and they've looked great, right? They go to Madison Square Garden, destroy the Knicks, score 120 plus, come back to LA, destroy the Clippers, score 120 plus. Lakers seem to be on a roll right now. And again, they're rested. They've stayed at home. So travel situation, rest schedule, however you want to word it, good for the Lakers. Both teams pretty depth shy right now. I think they're just of different mindsets at this point. This specific moment, it looks like Golden State is a little more, depressed mindset, where the Lakers are pretty joyous. They got Mark Williams yesterday. This is a pretty happy team right now. I think the game plan for them, pretty simple, Joe. You come out of the gates running. LA's been scoring big lately. Why not run a team that had to play a 134-129 game in Salt Lake last night? It seems like a contest, though, where when each side only has 7 guys, that the depth on defense is not going to be there. So I think over in this game is a good look. 221.5 seems to be a bit low. I think it's reasonable. I'm going to play it that way. Golden State, LA over 221.5.
Yeah. Looking for points in that one at 221.5. I also, I think it got raised a little bit, but Hakamura with, I think he's got 15.5 points is his prop, and yet he's dropping 20 points. I think he's got 3 in a row, and no Anthony Davis. And you mentioned it. Who else is going to supplement the scoring for the Lakers, right? He seems to be a pretty go-to guy that LeBron likes a lot. I think he's going to, him and Austin Reeves, I think the 3 of them are going to have a huge game in this one tonight.
Yeah, you watch him play the last couple of games, Joe, and Hachimura is a focal point. Austin Reeves has always been a focal point. I know that our colleague Ski Prophet loves to play his assist total up and over Austin Reeves. So, yeah, you can probably find – I'm just not a prop player in NBA, but you can probably find a lot of props on the LA side that will cash tickets tonight.
Yeah, like that number, too. And it's actually, 14.5 points, a little juice, but might not be a bad look in that one. All right, so we got a couple of NBA games here from you, Veno. We do have a bit of a game on Sunday. It escapes me. I can't remember. I haven't talked about it at all this week, and I just can't seem to remember. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's in New Orleans, if that helps. A lot of different ways to approach this game. We did see a lot of Eagle money show up late here in the week. I'm seeing some 1s across the board here, 1.5 still at some places. 2 years ago, Veno, it was the same thing late. All that Eagle money came through, and they went off as the favorite, actually, over Kansas City a couple of years ago in Glendale. So I don't know that we'll get that much Eagle money this week, but what were you thinking with this game when it first opened up?
Well, I think it opened in a place where, it's put it up there and see where the bettors take it, right? And I'm sure that, like you just stated, in the end, come Sunday at kickoff, the Philadelphia money is going to continue to show up, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they do go off as the favorite in this game. There seems to be a sentiment toward the Eagles, although, there's a lot of people out there that are just like, I refuse to bet against the Chiefs because they continue to win. In this instance, we're asked here today to bring a prop to the table, so I'll bring you one of my favorite props in this game, and that's just going to be, it sounds redundant, but let's bet on Patrick Mahomes. His passing yard total it was 250.5. It's bumped up to 251.5, but to me, it's still too low. The first question I asked myself, Joe, very simply was, do I think KC can gain 350 yards in this contest? I happen to think they can. Can they gain 100 of that on the ground? Because that would put Patrick Mahomes down to 250 passing. I don't think they can gain 100 on the ground just due to the matchup. KC's ground game hasn't been great. Philadelphia's run defense is elite. It's going to have to be in the air for Kansas City. If you add to that real quickly, I'll just jump ahead a couple of spots here. If you add to that the fact that KC may be playing from behind like they did in that first Super Bowl, then the ball gets up in the air even more. Where the passing game is concerned, I just find, and I've been talking about this for 5 weeks, the diversity of that passing game that Kansas City has is just too much to handle. If you go through their games, you'll find that Houston tried their best to just single up Travis Kelce with their middle linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair. Didn't work. Kelce chewed him up. Buffalo came with the opposite approach. Let's try and bracket Kelce. Let the other guys have theirs. The other guys got theirs. Mahomes threw for 242. And the only reason why he didn't get to 252, which is what we need here, is because they were able to run against a weak Buffalo defense. They gained 135 on the ground. Some of that due to Mahomes' scrambles. You have to figure that in. But still, you're not going to run on Philly the way that you ran on Buffalo. If you look back, Tyler Higbee had a huge game against this team before he got hurt. Zach Ertz had 11 catches last week. So Kelsey's going to be a problem no matter what. But when you start adding in Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and that speed, two guys, not one, two guys that can beat you vertically, it's tough. Hopkins, Schuster, the guys that don't show up in box scores that often but make 20-yard catches, Noah Gray, the running back screen passes. 251 to me seems awfully low. I think the point is pretty simple here, that Philadelphia's got a good enough run defense to force KC to the air. Andy Reid knows that. He's had 2 weeks to put a passing game plan together. I like that. The Philadelphia pass rush, which a lot of people talk about, rightfully so, it's not better than Houston's. Houston's probably better. If Philly's run defense isn't better than Houston statistically, so they've already seen this. KC tried to force the run against Houston. 22 of 50 offensive plays were running plays. Some of that due to the fact that they were ahead late. Just go back, Joe. I'm not taking very much from that first Super Bowl between these two, but I'll leave you with these two thoughts. The receiving core Kansas City had that game was garbage. Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney caught meaningful touchdown passes in that game. That's what they were down to in that contest. Here, this receiving core is significantly better. Also, in that game, Philadelphia was ahead 24-14 at halftime. In the second half, KC scored on every single drive. Andy Reid had open receivers like I've never seen before, simply outcoached Jonathan Gannon. Some people say, oh, that's Jonathan Gannon. It's not Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio's 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to lean toward Andy Reid. I'm going to lean toward Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to lead to that passing game going over 251.5 passing yards.
It's so funny because, it's the healthiest this receiving core of Kansas City has been all year, by the way. They've got everybody available to them. And it's so funny because compared to a couple of years ago at Philadelphia, Veno, the outside looks the same from the wide receiver perspective, but those two running backs they had a couple of years ago were trash. They don't come anywhere even remotely close to what Saquon brings to the table. So it's really going to be interesting to see the chess match between Andy Reid and Fangio, and of course Kellen Moore there and Spags, who listen, he's taken guys like, if we're being honest, I mean, wasn't San Francisco the number one rushing team last year in that Super Bowl with a healthy Christian McCaffrey? How'd that work out for Christian McCaffrey? A couple of weeks to prepare, and they might suck all year long against the run, Veno. What is that? That's meant nothing with Spags' defense when it comes to the big games.
Nah, it really doesn't, Joe. And it's just his ability to confuse the other quarterback. I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but that last blitz he sent at Josh Allen in the game against Buffalo was something Buffalo didn't recognize on film, didn't recognize it on the field, and it caught him by surprise. And he pulls it out when it's the most meaningful. Jalen Hurts isn't necessarily a four-read quarterback. It's like, let me look one, let me look quick, let me take off. So confusion could be a part of this for Spagnuolo as well. It's a good, you could make as many counter arguments for the Eagles, let's face it, but this one we're looking at one specific prop. I think Mahomes will throw for 252 or better.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see that chess match again between these coaching staffs. But don't forget, a couple of years ago, he had a different offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. It wasn't Kellen Moore. It was Shane Steichen. And, he didn't get nearly as sacked as much. They didn't need to run the ball as much. He got rid of the ball a lot quicker. He's holding on to the ball a lot longer here these days under Kellen Moore. So it'll be interesting to see how both of these teams mix it up. You, though, are locked and loaded, ready to go for this big game. Veno, on your page at WagerTalk, we got college hoops tonight, NBA. What else you got going on there right now?
Both of those, NBA and college hoop for sure. The Super Bowl game itself is going up this afternoon. The props I'm going to put up all at once. I've got 4 done. I think we're going to have about 8 when all is said and done. They'll go up all at once, probably tomorrow afternoon. So you'll have everything ready and available. Again, the NFL, let me just say, Joe, the last couple of weeks in the playoffs, it's been good to me the last couple of years, the playoffs. Finished number 1 at WagerTalk in the playoff season last year. Last 2 weeks, 12-1 in the NFL playoffs. So we're on a really, really good roll here. I think I'm seeing it pretty clear. Once again, check it all out on my homepage at wagertalk.com.
Great stuff, Rob Veno. As always, we appreciate it, brother. We'll see you, of course. Some great game breakdowns available to you. Some of the big games here tonight, NBA, college hoops, available on our page at WagerTalk on our YouTube page. So, guys, make sure you check them out. Don't forget to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And hit the follow button on Instagram as well as TikTok. Good to see you guys hanging out with us here on WagerTalk today. We appreciate it. As we get ready, of course, huge slate on the hardwood tonight in college basketball as well as NBA. And might we start to see a little bit more movement in the side or total in this game coming up Sunday? I can't think of anybody better to ask these questions to than our man VR, Gianni the Greek, in the house. Ready to go, fresh off of, the man flew to Australia to do some hits there for UFC. Twice. Now he's back home twice. He went around the world, and now he is back ready to drop the steam knowledge to us. Gianni, what is going on here today, my man?
Seeing a lot of Eagles money line action going now to even money. Like it's hard to get plus on them right now. I'm looking at my screen, and even though they're getting 1, I'm seeing books here in Las Vegas that are charging you like minus 105 on the money line. So it happens every year. Obviously, this isn't going to be as huge as other years when we have a higher spread. And, wise guys take advantage of that every year with the Super Bowl, meaning where they come in and bet the favorite just because the money line doesn't reflect the point spread. Because I talked about it again multiple times that when it comes to the Super Bowl, it's bettors that haven't bet all year round. And when they want to place a bet on the Super Bowl, they want to cheer on a team to win. They don't care about the points. And when they find out their hundreds only get them back $91, $92 to take 4 points, they rather take the plus money. So what usually happens is it's not a reflection of the actual point spread. So there's more times than not, if not always, especially closer to game time, you get that favorite on the money line at a price that you shouldn't be able to get. Doesn't mean it's going to cash, but you're placing a decent bet. That's hard to do this year, though, Joe, because of the number at 1.5 and 1. What are they going to make it? Like, they can't make it to where Philly's now minus 110. Why wouldn't you take the 1? Why would you take them on the money line? That makes no sense. So they're not going to be able to do that. The betting syndicates won't be able to do that. What's interesting to me is what's going to happen with this total, because you're seeing more and more books going to 48.5, knowing that the recreational money is going to come in on the over. To me, that's a telling sign that they took a lot of sharp money on the under. In fact, I had the most profitable bettor at Circa since the place opened on my podcast for the UFC yesterday. It's a guy that doesn't have any social media, that doesn't this. And I said, what do you want me to promote? He said, I don't have anything to promote. You know me, Ace. I have nothing to promote. This is a guy that bets for real. You know what I mean? And he was saying that the guys he works with that bet this Super Bowl, that's what they came in on. They came in and bet the under 50. They came in and bet the under 49.5. And that's why we're looking at 49s and 48.5s across the screen. That much I can confirm to you has been sharp money related. Most expect this to tick back up. Will we see 50 again? Probably not. But with that said, it's only Thursday, and I know it seems like the Super Bowl's near, but 90%, I'd venture a guess, close to 90% of the money that will be bet on the side in total have not been bet yet. So there is a chance, if you do like the under, to hold out. If that's my recommendation, the holdout. If you like the over, and I know a lot of sharp guys, the guys that I respect, think this game is going to go into the 50s. And even though the numbers may appear to favor the under, they think the X's and O's favor the over. The guys that really follow X's and O's more than simply data and power ratings, they think this game's prime to score 55, right around that 55 range. So if they come in and bet that over, you'll definitely see that line jump up. So I wouldn't wait too much longer, because again, if you're looking to bet the over, you're seeing the line drop. So you're like, what am I in a rush for? I may be able to go over 48. I may be able to go over 47.5. That's not going to happen. That will not happen. I think 48.5 is the best you're going to get as far as the lowest total. I think from here, it's only going to go in one direction, and that's back up. Now, if they get a ton of risk, you will see 50 again, because they already know. Guys like the guy I had on, who more times he was explaining how now he has to bet late, because he has, for him to get enough money down, he can't get money down on MMA early. So they don't even bet early. He's betting 10 minutes before fight time, believe it or not, where, 10 years ago, that was unheard of. And, he was saying, I don't even bet props. I can't get enough down to where it's worth it for me to bet props. So he's at a position now where his bankroll's so big that his exact explanation was, I rather have a higher winning percentage with less bets. Having less bets and a smaller edge, because I'm betting more money, than having a bigger edge at less money. So it's going to be interesting to see if guys like him come in and touch this side, or come back and bet this total again if the public moves it up. That's pretty much what I'm seeing in the Super Bowl. Again, the props, the overs are going to start coming in 24 hours before the game time, probably from Friday night through up until kickoff. You will see the overs starting to get money. So if you like any of these props over, and we already touched on a handful that the betting syndicates got out ahead because they know the public's going to bet mostly overs, don't wait. Because most of the recreational bettors that betting props, they want to cheer for over yards, over receptions, over all that stuff. Because like I said the other day, they're never out of it. Even if you got over 4.5 reception, your guy hasn't caught a catch and it's halftime, you still have a live ticket. But if you have under 4.5 receptions, he's caught 5 catches by the end of the second quarter, the halftime, you're throwing that ticket in the trash. So it's the bias of the bettors to go over on all these props. And in the Super Bowl, it's magnified 10x. So if you like over props, do not wait. If you like under props, any of the yardage props under, and you may have missed some, we talked about some of those under props, how they're betting a lot of the under on the Barkley, and now that's moved. If you agree with that short money, but you're like, I don't know if I want to take 2 yards less, 3 yards less, wait. Don't take that number yet, because the bettors that are going to come in and bet the over on Barkley on all that stuff, they haven't gotten to the window yet. I promise you that. And that money will far outweigh the sharp money that's bet those unders, because as I said, that gentleman I had on yesterday, guys like that don't even mess with the props because they just can't get enough money down. So, yeah, that's what's kind of happening now. I see most of the sharps now sitting back and waiting for the public to speak. They're waiting for the public money to come in, and that's when you'll start seeing them starting to fire on a lot of these unders, a lot of these no's that are chalky.
A couple of years ago, Gianni, when these two teams met, we had a similar situation. Chiefs were a slight favorite until Sunday. And then all of that Philadelphia money came in, and all of a sudden the line flipped. If you think people are on to Philadelphia, do you think that can happen again? Or do you think the books will avoid that at all costs?
No, I do think it can. Especially with the future risk that they have on Kansas City. They have more future risk on Kansas City. And I really, just hearing out there, you know what I mean? Just hearing what's going on, because I've had to go to the strip so many times to place a bet here because that's the only place that has that prop and that kind of nonsense. So I've just been hearing people talking, and I do expect the Philadelphia money to come in hard. Yeah. Even sharps that bet Philadelphia, number guys like Philadelphia. It's no secret. I mean, the guy that I'm talking about, that's what he said. It's no secret. The guys that just follow numbers, they think Philadelphia should probably be the 1 point favorite, the 1.5 point favorite. That's why they took some Philadelphia action on the money line and some Philadelphia at +1.5. Now, obviously, when the line's this tight, there's also disagreements. There's betting syndicates that laid KC already. When that line first came out, they took KC. They took KC money line. So you have that difference of opinion between sharps. But I do think that the guys that like Kansas City, like Mahomes, they fired instantly. Once this line came up, didn't matter to them. They figured out, I don't want it to go up. How much down lower is it going to go? They took the Kansas City side. I think the Eagle bettors have been waiting. Will this line go up? I'm getting the dog.
Yeah.
And most are thinking this ain't going to flip. Philly won't go to favorite. But like you said, we've seen it already happen before. That wave of money hasn't come in. I do think it's going to come in. I would not be surprised if that happens. Again, it won't change much. At one point, should it come into play? It really shouldn't. But stranger things have happened, man. Stranger things have happened. And this game is expected to be tight. Let's not forget, the Eagles were how many minutes away from winning that Super Bowl? It was like a coin flip at one point, very close to the end of the game. So, I do think you're going to see Philadelphia money. And I would not be surprised if they closed as the 1-point favorite. Again, the books aren't afraid of getting middled. That would be like a rare probability that the Super Bowl ends with a 1-point difference and they end up, getting middled, where everybody that took the 1.5 in Philadelphia wins and everybody that took the 1.5 in Kansas City late wins as well. I don't think they're really worried about that. Now, if it was around 2.5, 3, 6.5, 7, then we have something to talk about. They don't want to get middled. Here, I don't think they're very worried about that. And if that money comes in, they're going to move it.
Going to be interesting here. All right, so we've got plenty still to go here coming up for Sunday. But tonight, great action on the hardwood in college hoops. Gianni, what do you got rolling for us here?
All right, we got a lot of college basketball action. First, let me get over some of the sides that we already got down on. 7-7-2 Delaware plus the 6. 7-7-3 Hampton plus the 4. 8-34, San Francisco plus the 6. 8-37 Sacramento State plus the 8.5. 8-53 Cal State Fullerton plus the 16.5. They like the dogs this night. Couple totals for you. 8-36 under 148.5. Portland State, Idaho. 8-42 under 143. Cal Santa Barbara, Cal Bakersfield. 8-60 under 146.5. Washington State, Oregon State. That tells you something. Bias of bettors is usually to go over. And these guys came in under early instead of waiting for these totals to possibly go up. Shows you that they already saw some value there. I'd pay attention, but also follow how those totals move, just in case there's some manipulation behind it. And finally, the added board games, which is usually sharps versus books. Once again, they're on the dogs. Long Island, 306-583. Long Island plus the 1, and 306-578. New Hampshire plus the 9. So if the dogs bark tonight, probably going to see the accounts go up that I bet into. If it's a chalky night, I'll probably see a lot of red tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it's so funny, too, how little home court advantage has meant in a lot of these college games so far this year, Gianni. And we mentioned it earlier, UFC, I know you've been doing the hits all week there. They're in Australia. You locked, loaded already with a couple of best bets at your page, or are you holding off and waiting for some more info?
I'm so glad you asked. I actually fired another bet this morning, real early in the morning. One of my originators gave it to me. I already had that side lean, so I went ahead and fired. So far, I have 2 3% plays in there. I have a 4% play in there. I have a 5% play in there. I'm already looking at 2 props that I'm waiting to confirm and 1 or 2 more sides that I'm waiting to fire. Listen, the low volume is what I'm aiming for in 2025, and so far, so good. But when I see value on a card, I am going to fire, especially in MMA, where my confidence is at an all-time high. I'm coming off my best year ever. And after a losing card as well, last card, I'm very confident that we will have another winning year in MMA. So I'm not afraid to fire, brother. And these pay-per-view cards usually offer you more value because they attract even more recreational better money. Lines are skewed even more towards those biases. So I really like when those, you can take advantage of fight nights as well, but those pay-per-view cards give you some value that you just don't usually find because, again, they don't care. Even if you see sharps come in, especially on a main event, co-main event on side A, they're not going to move it too significantly, because if they feel that side B's coming in Saturday, before fight night. So that's offering up in Australia. There's some good fights. It seems to be top heavy where the big names are at the top, but dig in towards the bottom. There's some dogs that have some value. They've been out ahead this year. Real quickly, don't want to go long, but last year was an outlier year. We saw over 70% favorites cash in MMA, which is a sport where you can see a lot of money line dogs come in. So far this year, dogs are winning at about a 43% clip, 10% higher than historically. So you expected that progression towards the mean. That's exactly what's happening. Doesn't mean they bet all favorites this week, but you should start to see some favorites start to come in more, because, again, the dogs have been barking. It's only 1 month in, but they saw the shade in the biases from last year, and so far so good. Books are doing really well. They're real happy in MMA, where last year they were getting crushed, cashing 5, 6, 7 fighter parlays week in, week out.
Now, let me ask you, Gianni, I've always been told that when they go abroad, they go to different countries, they kind of stack the undercard with local guys, right? Local fighters. And they usually line them up with, some, let's face it, some gas cans here. Have you found that there's any value in backing the Aussies, the guys? Because I'm not seeing any of them that's a favorite. They're all dogs. So is there any angle to that at all, backing the hometown guys?
100%. I mean, there was a time where there was even more, the MMA market has become more efficient than it was 5 years, 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Where in Brazil, you don't want to fade Brazilian fighters, because even if they get their scorecard, they're usually going to get the nod, especially if it's a close fight. And you still see that a lot. In Australia, that's exactly what's happening. Like you said, the undercard stacked with a lot of Australian fighters. And also it's difficult for handicapping them. There's not too much data to lean on. Like, they don't have a lot of UFC fights. So you have to look at what the promotions they were fighting in prior. Some of these promotions are really weak. So it is more difficult. I found a couple. I'll tell you real quickly, man. I'll give you 2 favorites that I actually bet. Line moved a little bit, but I know people like throwing in money line favorites. We already bet Kevin Giussette. That's a hometown guy. And the other guy added today was Jake Matthews. He's on the main card. Another hometown guy, Australian, fighters. So we're not afraid to back them, not afraid to lay a little chalk for them as well. Because like you said, wouldn't be the worst thing to have an Australian crowd into the fights. You know what I mean? Because their guys are getting the job done. And you see some of that, even some short notice fighters that are being thrown in there that aren't in very good positions. So don't be afraid to lay a little bit of chalk on some of those home guys, because you got to know the judges are a little bit skewed. The crowd, more importantly, it's not like the judges are going to change their minds, but you're get affected by what the crowd's doing. Like if the hometown fighter lands a big shot and the crowd goes nuts, that's going to put emphasis on that shot, even if it didn't do a lot of damage, more so than if they're not doing anything. So, I mean, they're human. The judges, just like everybody else. So when they're hearing that crowd roaring when the guy's looking like he's doing some damage, it's going to be reflected in the scorecards. So I always look to back those hometown fighters, even if sometimes I have to pay a little bit higher than I'd like. I feel that you're paying that premium, but it's warranted in that situation. And those 2 fighters were a perfect example with Giussette and Matthews, where I wasn't afraid to lay a little better than 2-1, thinking true odds should be 3-1. Now, elsewhere, I would have probably only got 180, had to lay 170, 180 if it wasn't in Australia, but I'll lay the 200, 220 in Australia because of that fact. So, yeah, I agree 100%.
That's it. Always looking for an edge and an angle. That's what it's all about. And nobody's got more of them than VR. Gianni the Greek. He is available at his page at WagerTalk.com. Gianni, we appreciate it as always, brother. We'll see you again tomorrow for the Friday edition of Wager Talk Today. But before we leave you guys, as customary all week long, we have always wanted to give you the opportunity to hear a very unbiased opinion from a Philadelphia Eagles fans. We've looked high and low for any Eagle fan to be unbiased. And, well, we found one. And Dan Alexander in the house here again with another very unbiased Philadelphia Eagle prop, I believe we're going to get from you here today, Dan. So what exactly are you looking at here in this game? Give us another one.
Yeah, so Joe, since this is probably going to be our last edition of the Unbiased Props, is Steve Merrill going to be in for you tomorrow, who's in for Prez, who God knows when he'll be back. I'm just doing the side, man. I'm here to tell you all the reasons of why Kansas City is going to win this game. Hell no, we're not doing that, Joe. What are you talking about, babe? Honestly, guys, the way that I'm betting this game, and call me a homer, call me whatever. I got the green on. I even got the Philly Water Dogs. Andy was talking lacrosse earlier, so I'm all Phillied up. I just look at what happened in 2019 and what is going to happen this year. From 2019 to now, one team got markedly better at every position on the field, and you could argue in the coaching department as well. And one team, while it might be one of the best dynasties that we've seen in recent sports, has stayed the exact same or gotten markedly worse at some positions. It's not going to be Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph rushing the passers this year, Joe. It's going to be Jalen Carter. It's going to be Brandon Graham, who, the team's going to play for him for the final game that he's playing. He's back from injury. It's not going to be Bradbury holding on the outside. It's going to be a defensive rookie of the year candidate in Quinyon Mitchell. Miles Sanders not going to be running the ball and fumbling on his first carry. No, we're going to be having an MVP candidate in Saquon Barkley running the ball. So I don't know if this is a homer enough for you, Joe. I don't think the Super Bowl is going to end up being particularly close. You could say, well, the Chiefs, they don't get blown out. Well, you think back to what happened in that Bucs Super Bowl. I think we might be seeing a repeat this year. The score that keeps coming to my mind, man, Joe, this is as homer as it gets. I keep seeing 31-14 in my dreams. I think the Eagles win by double digits, man. I know. It's crazy. Chris Roberts is going to have a conniption here in the chat saying, newbie, please don't do this to us. Don't do this to yourself. But, everyone's worried about Jalen Hurts versus the blitz, Joe. Well, guess what? They sent 13 blitzes against him in 2019. Jalen Hurts, 10 of 13 on those plays. So Spagnuolo, dial up the blitz, send it after him. People said the same thing was going to happen last week. 7 of 13, 116 yards, 84.1 passer rating against the blitz. So keep them coming, Joe. Keep the naysayers. I'm putting a 31-14 ticket in my pocket. It's 370-1, Joe. 370-1. I got to sprinkle it. It's come to me in my dreams, man. So that's what we're doing today.
See, and now another outstandingly unbiased opinion on this game from a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You are now going to make me have to make two more bets now, because not only do I have to go exact score, but now I have to go to the alternate market and lay 6.5, 7 points with the Eagles, because according to you, you said 31-14.
Joe, why don't you just lay 16.5 and get a nice plus 550? If I'm saying they're winning by 17, bet the Eagles to win exactly by 17. Plus, what is it, 5,500? Lay the alternate line, man. Eagles win by double digits, and I could give reasons why. I could give more and more of them for you, but we're already over time. We got work we got to do here, Joe. So all I will say is go Birds, and we'll circle back on Monday how close exactly I was, but we'll be doing it after the Eagles hoist that Lombardi trophy. Unbiased, of course, Joe. Go Birds.
Wow, that is unbelievable. There you go, another unbiased opinion for you guys when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're all very well-grounded, that fan base. I don't know if you guys have noticed that at all. That'll about do it here, guys. Obviously, great games across the board here today. Visit your favorite handicapper over at WagerTalk.com. Locked, loaded, ready to go, and cash a few tickets to build up that bankroll as more and more bets are rolling in for this Sunday's game. Don't forget, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Come back and join us again tomorrow. Another edition of Wager Talk Today is coming up. But until then, cash those tickets tonight, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow.